I just crossed the 200 hour mark, and as a new player, just kind of wanted to talk about my experience with it and what I did. I started off as a warrior. I know you can't see it, and I got to like level 10 and ended up quitting because it was extremely difficult to progress in the game, and I was a new player. I just didn't have the skill set to keep going with it, so I deleted it. It sounds like a lot of famous streamers kind of did the same thing. And so if they don't want to deal with it, I definitely didn't want to deal with it either. So I moved on to a witch infernalist, and I got all the way to the end game basically. I didn't really go much further because it was super annoying. The minions just kept getting stuck in every doorway or on anything possible, and I would just end up tanking basically all the mobs. And so I just wasn't really having that much fun. I didn't think that I was going to scale much further with how little loot I was getting, so I quit on that. And then I made the sorceress and I started from scratch. And there's something that was really cool that I like about this game is that all the stuff from this character was in the bank of this one. So even though I started again, it wasn't really like I was starting again. I had some leftover gear that I accidentally just picked up. I was a hoarder. I just picked up everything off the ground, and it actually made this playthrough a lot better. And I had a little bit more experience the second time through, and it was a lot of fun. And so, actually, there's something I want to talk about a little bit, and it's what really got me into the game. It was the visuals. The visuals look amazing. I have an OLED monitor, and some of these environments look like I could just hop through the screen and jump into, especially the ones at night, like in the early levels, like the forest. Those were amazing. And then, like once you get to, I think probably like Act Two, midway, it starts looking really good again too. But I actually just wanted to talk about kind of like the overall little details that's everywhere, like the little people in the background, like what they're wearing, the styles. Like I just can't tell you how much I love like these little details. It makes it look so awesome and oddly nostalgic for something that I've never played, but something about it just makes me feel happy. And so I love like the corny kind of statues and like styling. There's something about it that I just love, and every time I open it, I never just gloss over the little details. So I appreciate that quite a bit, and the amount of effort they put into like styling. That was really what pulled me in. So I just want to say like good job to Triple G. They did an amazing job on the visuals, and it runs pretty smooth. Something I've been experiencing, I guess, with the overall playability is that it crashes from time to time, and that's not really fun. Luckily, it didn't crash in any times that was like really important. I was just playing the game as normal, and then it crashed, and it kind of sucked. But a lot of people have been playing like the Arbiter of Ash, and it just crashes on them, and that really sucks to hear. I haven't had any problems with that, thankfully, but I have crashed quite a bit too. It sounds like it's something they're working on, so I'm not really gonna hound them for it. I'm not really too worried about it. I know they'll fix it eventually. I don't know if I should expose myself for this, but some of the bosses, it ended up taking me probably like 30 times to beat. And so part of it was, yeah, it was a skill issue. I just wasn't good enough to beat them. But part of it was also my build was terrible. And I didn't realize my build was terrible. The passive tree was not too good too. I just thought that everybody went through this and I just had to get through it too. So I played some bosses like 30 times and it was miserable. And so that's kind of a complaint I have about this game. It doesn't really teach you how to play. It gives you good indicators that you need to change something in order to succeed, but it's not really obvious what you need to do. So the way that I got over this hump by not really having that prior Path of Exile 1 experience is watching YouTube videos. I watched a lot of other players what they did, and it raised a lot of questions when they had stuff that I didn't. So I felt like it was a lot of work just to learn the game, and I'm not particularly fond of games like that. Typically, you think of like a board game, right? You get a new board game, you open the box, and you have the instructions on how to play the game. It doesn't necessarily tell you like this is the best strategy on how to win, but at least it teaches you how to play their game. That kind of leads me into another point is the skill gem. When you click on it and you can select it to view the
Hypothermia
video.
is a curse that makes your enemies more vulnerable to cold damage.
Yeah, that is awesome. I love that. That was very helpful for a new player. But it's only on the skill gems that you see that. And I think the spirit gems as well. Let's see. Nope, there's nothing. So you kind of have to think about what you're doing, but it's hard to do that as a new player because there's so much shit to the game that you don't know what to do. So it took a little bit of time to get used to that. And I wish that they made it a little easier, at least gave like some examples of what to do with the support gems, spirit gems, skill gems, what to do, and how it all plays together with the passive tree. But it is just a lot, and it's just something you have to mess around with. Or so it seems, because there's just another point. When I was playing it through the first time, I was running out of skill gems. I had skill gems equipped that I had no business equipping. I w I made like some of the biggest mistakes equipping nonsense skill gems, and so when it came time to like facing a boss, it would just destroy me over and over and over again. And so I tried to experiment on my skill gems, and I had none. I had none. And so people, I guess on Reddit, I mean, they weren't telling me explicitly, but I would kind of linger in on similar conversations like this. They just said to restart, and I just did not like that idea. So that's kind of what made me just try to be perfect at the boss and not get hit once in order to progress. But I just didn't like that about the game. There should be an abundance of skill gems, in my opinion, so that you can experiment. You can always make sure that the skill gems you do have are at the maximum level possible, because that's huge too. And explaining how to um, make the account better. So getting the greater jewel Earl orb, the perfect, and all that. I wish they kind of hinted at that. I also noticed that like these were like graded off in the belt. It took me a little while to figure out that the belt also gave like +1 slot, +2, and that there was a ring that would also give a few more slots to the skill. So there's a lot of exploration in the game that I think is kind of like expected of the player to figure out on their own. But what ends up happening is there's so much of that that they depend on the player base to teach them how to play their game. I find that a little odd. Um, it's not uncommon. There's lots of games that do that, but it was just really overwhelming. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Um, I guess for the next topic on, since we're on the topic of overwhelming, the passive tree is huge. And yes, it was overwhelming at first, but I don't think this is the most overwhelming thing of the game, to be honest. Levels come pretty slow in the game. You get one at a time, and you can only go so many places from where you first start. So there's time to think about what you want to do and where to go. You just read little by little. I always went all the way to the end and just read what was out here, and I used the search bar. I thought that was an amazing touch to the game. And yeah, it is overwhelming, but you learn to cope with it, and it helps having a community that you can ask questions and look up advice for. And also, I mean, this is not my final build. It's pretty garbage, and I don't really know how to think for myself. when I have this many options. But the thing that makes it kind of better is that you could just use coins to take them off. It's not a big deal. I get so much money that I don't even know where I got it from. I have 4.4 million. At some point, I had 6 million, and I basically gambled it all. So money is not really a problem. There, it's always just around the corner. It's on the ground and all that stuff. So I want to speak a bit about currency. Let's see. So when I first started, all this stuff was so confusing. I did not understand what any of it meant. And because I didn't know what it meant, I just picked up everything. Everything. I was a hoarder. If it was on the ground, it was in my inventory 2 seconds later. I just picked up everything off the ground and told myself I don't know anything about it now, but eventually I'll figure it out. I typically do. And the explanation's not very descriptive. It didn't really mean anything to me because I didn't know what modifiers were or what kind of modifiers a weapon could get or how to craft it or strategy. Basically, my perception of the currency system or crafting system is that it's just a fancy way to waste time and destroy whatever you have. So with the currency system not really being my favorite because it's technically the crafting system as well, um, you have to use a website to trade. I don't like that at all. There's something about that I just do not like. Um, I wish that the trading system was integrated in the game. I grew up playing RuneScape with the Grand Exchange, and everything was all in one spot. It was great. I don't like having to use the websites, honestly. Um, there's something kind of odd about using the websites. It sounds like, or it seems like people are already on top of having like merging macros set up where these players are already scanning for great deals and weapons with great modifiers that auto bid on stuff. And so basically what happens is it's really hard to get a great deal if you're playing legitimately because these bots basically just buy out everything instantly as soon as they can, assuming that, the seller actually wants to meet up with them. But that has been kind of annoying. I also want to say that meeting up with people so you have to trade with them in person is just so annoying. It's just a waste of time in my opinion. And it's gotten to the point where I stopped picking up stuff because I didn't feel like selling it. And I just know that, someone out there probably could have really used that gear if I just picked it up. And it's kind of not the best for the economy in that sense. And it's not good for new players if everyone is just picking up the good stuff. And yeah, so I'm not really a big fan of that. I wish that there was a grand exchange sort of system, kind of like they have for the currency exchange here,
Hey,
where I don't have to go on an external website and I could just exchange it here, and it's not that big of a deal. Okay, storyline. The storyline was not my favorite, I have to say. Um, like I said previously, I had no idea of what the previous storyline in PO1 was. So I just figured that the best thing to do was watch a YouTube video of someone kind of explaining the lore. So as I played this one, I would kind of connect the dots. And it was ridiculously hard to be interested in the Path of Exile one storyline. I'm sorry if that offends you, but I couldn't give two shits about the storyline. I guess I kind of understood what the characters were once I started playing this one, but after the first playthrough, I just stopped paying attention, honestly. I just stopped reading it. I just skipped through it. I didn't care about any of it. It might be because half the game isn't finished yet, and that's fine too. I'll still play the part 4, 5, and 6 whenever it comes out. But yeah, there was nothing really interesting about the storyline. It was actually a little bit predictable to me, which is not very good. My favorite part was probably the hooded one revealing who he was, because it was this big dramatic moment where he just has to, for no reason at all, tell us who he is, and I didn't understand why he did that. But then he tells you that he's Sin, and it's like, yeah, we know. It is so fucking obvious. It was not a mystery to me the whole time that I was playing it. I made that connection as soon as I finished watching the Path of Exile one, like lore review or whatever. So that was a bit of an L. And what else is there's so much to talk about in this game. Let's see. Oh, another one. The ascendancy. So I kind of like that they put in the ascendancy into the story, I suppose. Like Act 2 and 3. That was kind of nice. But it was just, both of them were just a little too hard to even attempt doing while I was playing the storyline. So I just skipped it and I came back to it, and it was just a really easy way to get those extra points. Besides getting like the 4 freebies, it's really hard for me to want to go back to doing them, to be honest. The trial of the second was so hard and so annoying. Um, and all I got out of it was basically what I think is nothing. It didn't really do much for me, and it just gave me a lot of anxiety. So there's that. I ended up switching to the Trial of Chaos to get my fourth ascendancy, and it was tough, but there's some BS involved in it, and everybody knows who's tried it. There's some BS involved with it. There's not much you can do. You just got to get through the end, and I eventually did. But overall, um, this is kind of a stain on the overall game, in my opinion. It just wasn't all that interesting, and a little too tough, in my opinion. The overall monsters in the game were awesome. There were some that I loved that I thought were super easy, and I didn't really have a bone to pick with them. There's some that were super annoying, and I just every time I saw them, I would just be swearing at them. I hated seeing them, and because of that, I loved the game. The same with the bosses. The bosses are pretty cool. Every single boss I felt like was unique, and I really had to learn what was going on with that specific boss. There was always a challenge. I was not one-shotting anyone, and so it was always very challenging, and I loved it. So I definitely recommend the game just for the bosses alone. The thing that I liked about the storyline is that everything scaled with my character. And so the bosses actually felt like a challenge, not because they were overpowered or that I was way underpowered. Is that by this point, this level, they expected me to kill the boss at this level with this gear. And I kind of like that. But once you get to the end game, that scaling kind of just goes out the window, and it's just fucking ridiculous. I don't think it has to be so hard that it just one-shots you, and that's how they make it challenging. I think it should be challenging where, yeah, they can bend you over and spank you a little bit, and it doesn't instantly kill you. You have a couple chances at the cost of you not doing so much damage. I think that would be the better system, but obviously that's kind of hard and is easy to say. I want to talk a little bit more about the whole trading system where it's on a website and you have to meet up with them, as I was just talking about. Um, I've been noticing that I've just been noticing that Triple G kind of depends on the community, us, the players, to make macros to make their game better and easier to use. And I just have like a massive issue with that. I like that they allow us to have macros to enhance their game, but I just kind of wish that it was in the game. I don't know if that's what everyone thinks, but I kind of wish that for myself because I don't really feel comfortable downloading stuff off the internet because viruses and whatnot. Everybody's been through that at some point, especially when they were a kid. And I just wish it was a part of the game. Um, Part of the reason why is you encounter so much loot in this game. Loot on loot on loot. And so you can use a loot filter to make it better for yourself. And I'm not complaining about loot filters. It's that you don't, it's really hard to know what is valuable when you first see it. Because not all of us are basically experts in every single class. And so once we walk past something, we might be walking past something that's worth divines, maybe. And you don't really have the time to like price check every single thing in the game. So it would kind of be cool if there's a system that kind of told you about what the market rate is for that particular part or piece of armor or weapon. So I ended up buying the quad stash tabs just so I can just chuck in a bunch of stuff and hope that something was valuable. But as you get to the end game, you get so much stuff and you just throw it all in there and it ends up filling up pretty quickly and no one's biting on that stuff. And so it really makes you think, um, do I just want to sell this stuff to like a merchant and get some coins for it, or do I hold on to it in the hopes that a future player might need it? And so most stuff that I pick up ends up being garbage. And so the incentive to check every single thing that you encounter with some kind of community created macro to price check it for the market price just is not appealing because that's basically all you're going to be doing all the time. And so once we get off of work, of working full time just to have another job, most of the time I just skip it and say, fuck it, I don't want it anyways. But there has been a few things in this game that I picked up that has been worth a couple of divine. And so you don't want to rule it out if you want to be successful. And it takes a long time to really figure out what stuff is good or not. For the Stormweaver build that I have, I've gotten good at finding wands and things that kind of help with this build. There was a robe that I made not too long ago that I was able to sell for like 80 exalt that I just found on the ground. I didn't have to do anything to it. And so I sold it, but I guess what my point is, I only knew that thing was valuable because I could have used it in my build. It was only slightly worse. But what about things for warrior or monks or rangers or whatever they're called? I don't know what the best weapon is for everything. And so I ended up just kind of tossing it out. So I do wish that there was something in game that was easier to check the market price for it without depending on the community macros and stuff like that. So there's another thing that I want to talk about in this game, and it's something I saw a few times, but I'm not really present in the community, and that's the on-death effects. And I fucking hate them. I don't like anything about it. There's lots of times that I died and I was like, oh, okay, that was my fault. I'll just not do that next time. But when it's like the on-death effects, basically what ends up happening is I developed PTSD and I don't want to run on anything that I just killed. So I just stand here, wait for it to disappear, and then I just start running and do it all the way through the map all over again. And I think that's not a good thing. I mean, I appreciate that they added some kind of like variance to the ways that the monsters create the on death effects like blood and lightning and flames and all that other stuff. But it doesn't matter. I think it just slows the game down way too much. And basically it goes from like a high-paced game just with lots of action and lots of farming loot and it's kind of fun to where I'm just standing here staring at the on death effects. And about half the times that I've died in this game was because of those, the on death effects. It sucks. There's nothing you can really learn from it. I'm not a better player from it. If anything, I'm more of like a weenie now that I'm constantly looking for it, and I just think it's something that should be left out of the game, if I'm honest. I haven't heard anyone say that they loved On Death Effect, um, so I'm sorry to those people, but I just can't stand them. I guess I could talk about the Reforged bench, Salvage bench. I don't particularly particularly like them. I don't find much use out of them. Um, Whenever I get like the superior stuff, I don't really pick them up, honestly. I don't find much of a use of just hand collecting them. I try to get the higher currency and spend my time getting those and then trading for it later. Most of the stuff I have, I've gotten off the ground or I traded for it. And it was just a way better uh, use of time, in my opinion. And so I really haven't found much use in the reforging or the salvage. And so with the whole reforging bench, I think the only useful thing is waystones in the early end game, I guess I could say. I've gotten quite a few waystones, and there were some times where I was stuck. Like I should be doing 10, and I'm only getting sevens, and so I was just stuck doing sevens to hopefully get an 8, to hopefully get a 9, and then get back to the tens. That was really annoying, but it was a lot less annoying because of the reforging bench. Once I got to 15, I didn't really have that issue. I just kept getting 15s, and it was great. So I've gotten quite a few 15s, and I have a lot more in my inventory. I have some 14s just in case. I always keep those, just 'cause why not? I guess I should just get to the end game, and we could wrap it up with that. So I've done quite a bit in the end game. I had some fun. There were some times I raged. It was just a little rage, though. It's okay. Doesn't hurt anyone. Most of the stuff that I was playing was before the update. And so before the update, you didn't have these lights and you had to find the citadels basically getting lucky. And I didn't particularly like that. It took me so long to find the first one. And so I went to it and I died. I got one shot. I played everything as good as I could, and there's just some ground effects that just basically one-shot me. And so nothing makes you want to quit more than getting one shot for something like that. It's a little too punishing. You spend all this time getting all the way out here, and it just kills you in one shot, and it's not very fun. It's a little too high stakes for what it's worth. Not to mention, you need the three different kinds of what are they called? The crisis fragments. Yeah, the three different kinds to face the arbiter, and you just risk getting one shot, getting the crisis fragments, and then get one shot in the actual boss. And so the new update, I haven't tried it yet. You get a couple more tries, so that's nice. Um, that is something I didn't particularly love. I still don't really love it. It's still really hard, but at least when you face the big boss, it's not as punishing. You get a couple of tries, so that's nice. I don't know what you would call these, but I really like that they exist. They're just fun. So I think my favorite is Breach. It's just very fast-paced, and I love it. It's really addicting getting the little Breach fragments and then going and being able to fight the boss at the end, it was really fun. I honestly I like bosses. Map bosses can be a little BS, as I was just talking about. Irritated, not that exciting. It's exciting for XP, but after a while, it just slows down to the point where it's a grind. Delirium, that's also fun. Expedition is probably also one of my least favorites. I feel like it personally targets me and puts me at a massive disadvantage. And somewhat benefit that you get from the modifiers, it just isn't worth it to me. So I don't really care for them outside of like trying the boss. So ritual, it's not that exciting to be honest. It's it's just a bit of a chore to me as well. Um, you basically fight monsters, but this time you do it in a circle and you hope that you get lucky. That's basically my take on ritual, and I don't really like it. The boss is cool, I guess, but it's not really my thing. Corruption, it's also just another monster level, great for experience, but other than that, not really, I guess. Um, what is that? Oh, I've seen one of these only once. It was like an XP modifier, like 500%. That's cool, but it's a little too rare for me. It is unique, I know, but it didn't really add anything interesting to the game, in my opinion. The same with the Wandering Trader. By the time you find one, you've found so many uniques that whatever they're offering just isn't exciting to me. Hideouts is awesome. I love the hideouts. It was really fun collecting them and looking forward to what the next one would be. That is awesome. Love that. So a giant plus one for that. So now that I've tried out everything basically there is to the end game, and what led me to want to make this video is I feel like I've gotten to do everything that I've wanted to do. It was really fun playing all the way up to the end game. It was kind of fun learning the end game, but not really that much fun if I'm honest with you. So I don't really know what else they have planned for the game. They just recently added new tower maps. Like they kind of diversified it, made it more interesting. And damn, I could kiss them for that. Because before, I almost died so many times just blindly walking in to a tower that wasn't like removing the rooftop. And right in front of my face would be like something that freezes me, and I just get chained to death and die. So that's what it was kind of like before they recreated it, and it was a lot of fun. Or it is fun now. It was not fun before. I guess I just really want to say that I appreciate they're listening to the community, it seems, and they added that feature which really made the game more fun to play. I I fully trust that Triple G is going to keep adding new great content, and then as time goes on, I'll feel a little bit more incentive to play the game and keep grinding further. But right now, it's kind of just turned into a chore. As far as like bugs and stuff like that, I've had my fair share of bugs in this game. Somewhere in Act 3, where was it? It was the waterways. Or was it the waterways? I forget which one it was. It was whichever one had the dogs in the cages. Somewhere before you go in the waterways, there was a dog that was impossible to kill, which is kind of funny because it was one of the weakest monsters in the whole map. And it cannot die. The only way I got rid of it is that I let it kill me, and I just respawned at the next checkpoint. But other than that, it was just stunning me over and over and over. So that was a really annoying bug. I think other people had some kind of bugs like that. Um, I think I talked about crashes earlier. It wasn't that big of a deal, and it seems like Triple G is looking into it, so I appreciate that too. There was a Reddit thread, I see them every now and then, of new players that chime into the community and they ask, should I play this game? I don't really know anything about it. It looks fun, but I don't really know if it's something I want to sink my time into. And what would my response be? I'd say if you have $30 and it's not a big problem for you, I would say play it. Um, if $30 is a lot, I would say just wait till it becomes free in the future. But if you do decide to pay the $30, you'll get your money's worth for at least I'd say 150 hours. If you get addicted to it and you want to keep playing in the end game, you could easily squeeze out like another 100 hours from it before you start getting bored. But I think you will inevitably get bored from doing this, unless you're just fully addicted. But I can't imagine most people being that addicted to this. But anyway, my mouth's getting dry. I hope you have a good day, and thanks for watching.